Hello, greetings everyone who's watching Black Mental Health Matters. Welcome to yet another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. Today we are going to talk autism. We are all aware that May is usually the Mental Health Month, and we are glad to be, we have talked mental health since the beginning of May to the end of May, and we've also been talking about mental health in the previous months, and also the coming months we shall still talk about mental health. But today we are going to talk about something very, maybe you have heard about it, or maybe you haven't, and you would like to know something about it. We are going to talk autism. Autism. We are going to talk autism, or you can call it autism spectrum disorder. We are going to talk about that, and so that you can understand this autism. How does one acquire it? Is it curable? If not, what is the way forward? So today I'm privileged to host Miss Jennifer Oka. Okay, I don't know how she pronounces her other name, but probably she will pronounce it later so that we can understand it. Jennifer is an autism awareness champion. She's also a mother to a son who has autism. She will take us through her journey, how it has been for her, how she found out, how she's coping, and all that, so that all the parents out there can understand how someone can get autism. And also, we have Brian here. Brian is a speech and language specialist, and he helps children who have speech problems, to start speaking like the normal children are. So we are going to, let them introduce themselves to us so that we can get into the topic and each one of us can learn something out of it. So, Miss Jennifer, you're very much welcome. I'm very happy to have you on the show. Black Mental Health Matter is very much excited to have you here. So, kindly introduce yourself and then we get it going.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening. Those who are glad to be with us today. My name is Miss Jennifer. Okay, I am mother to a child who was diagnosed with autism, and I'm an architect by profession, and I'm a farmer. And right now, I decided to take on to becoming a champion to create awareness about autism and how we can handle it as parents, as family. Okay, enjoy the show with us.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that. But you have some echoes in your background, so you'll need to correct that. So, Brian, I don't know how your sound is. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Can you introduce yourself?
Is the echo still there?
No, it's off, but you can now mute yourself as Brian tries to speak up. Jennifer, kindly mute yourself, and then we'll let Brian himself. Brian, can you introduce yourself, please? We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. So as Brian gets ready to introduce himself as he works on his computer, kindly, Jennifer, take us through your journey. How did you get to know that your son actually had autism, and how did you get the point of saying, let me go to a hospital to, to make sure that we get to know what he's suffering from so that we can be able to get for him some treatment? What was that point like? Take us through from the start.
Uh, I don't know. My headset is not here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Okay. With my son, I think from birth, you watch your child, and being a first child, usually it's very hard for you to right away see the highs and the lows of the child. And for me, being a mom with a first child and isolated without a couple of family members around. We are basically three at home, my child, myself, and his dad. So this child became more of a loner child. And for us as parents, usually you think that's a well-behaved child. He doesn't talk, he doesn't disturb. So, you keep with it and say, oh, my child is so good, doesn't disturb, he's all right. But then it
Okay.
got to a point where you go visiting and then children are older than him, are able to speak clearly. And of course, with people telling you, maybe he's a loner child, he's by himself, change the environment, and then you take time 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. The child's speech is quite low, repeated activities. You start noticing few things here, few things there. So at first, I took him to a pediatrician, Dr. Kasiri, and he told me, he'll pick up and all that. But with time, you keep seeing things. And then he advised me to take him to an international school, which I did. From there, he was at school, but not the normal child you could expect. Slow in speech, slow in expressing himself, repeated behaviors. He would stick on a toy forever, love. And then also noise would affect him, passing ears a lot more, like all his ears, certain things like that. So of course, with
Okay.
time, he went to a normal school, went to school, but midway started having challenges understanding school. Then he had a few subjects he loved, then the rest completely nothing. But as a parent, you push on. So when he started S4, I took him back to Dr. Biarugava. And Dr. Biarugava said, look here, you are forcing life into this child. Because one of the things as a parent, you have stigma. You don't want to accept. Acceptance is the biggest challenge we have. You don't want to accept it.
Yes.
You think otherwise people are going to judge your child, people are going to judge you as a mother. Maybe they'll think you're a bad mother. And yet the child is suffering. Then this child went
Yes.
through depression. It was so bad, he became suicidal. And it was a turning point for me, acceptance and learning to deal with it. But of course, for me, the credit I give my siblings were there to support me. The doctors were there to support me. But I also discovered most mothers don't come up. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want family to know about it because you're judged. Some people say the child was bewitched. Some people would say you aren't a good mother during pregnancy or you took herbs. They will accuse you of having taken herbs. It's kind of tough. But when you accept it, then it's easier to deal with. So I realized that I can't push him to A level. Gargama told me, look here, there are institutions that help children with special needs. They'll identify with him. And indeed, we went to Uganda Institute of Management and we were able to help. The principal was so nice, assist him, gave him courses, and he was able to choose what he wanted, which is building construction. And he immediately focused on that. He's now an excelling student. Yet, if you looked at his expo performance, you'd be so disappointed and say, look here, how do you get distinctions here and you have F9s here? But of course, as a parent, and for me, acceptance was the biggest thing, and it's one thing I'm so proud of that I did. And right now, he's doing so well. He's enjoying his school. He's doing, and one thing that I got to know also, the government now takes care. The Ministry of Education actually has a special department for children with special needs, and they'll be helped in school. The way their exams are set and marked are not the same as these other children with normal behavior. So for me, I've decided to come out and also let other parents know. Sometimes these children are called stupid at school, useless, they're called names. And most of them are quiet. My son is extremely quiet, reserved. He takes time to express himself. Of course, the anger, you have managed it as a parent. Now you deal with him. I know how to communicate with him. And also, one of the things that I did is to allow him get out of my nest. I was very protective of him. Even when you go out to play football, anyone gets to him, I'm there as the mother. I'm the lioness there. But now I'm letting him get out. So one of the things also that I've learned to accept is I had to undergo counseling, and they told me it's not curable, but it's manageable. And his is not so severe. Speaks, he interacts, he's opening up. So someone who looks at him and has seen him along, like he says, he's just a quiet boy. But for me as a mother and also with the daughter, so I know what my son the issues is having right now. So thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jenny, for sharing that touching story. Um, So we are going to get into what is autism itself. What is autism? Because we understand that autism is a mental health disorder. It's something that attacks the brain. But you see, if a lay person is asked about autism, they might not be able to explain or they might not be able to actually understand what autism is. Because when you talk about, for example, disability, when someone is physically disabled, they will be able to tell she's like this, she's like that, she's like that. They will be able to tell that. But because I've seen her maybe walk, I've seen her maybe speak or something like that. But when it comes to autism, how would you explain to a lay person for them to understand that this is the this child is suffering from autism?
Okay, autism is broad. There are spectrums of autism. One of the things is, first of all, it's a neurological disorder. It's not
Okay.
something that maybe the child was bewitched or the child maybe fell and then gets autism. No, this is it can be genetical. It can be because I remember they had to do DNA tests, other tests of course to find out. But to a lay person, if I can go back to what the doctor told me, he said, we also don't know. It's there. But you see these things that are not right in a child. The child has no speech. The child has communication issues. The child has holds back so much. There is something different about this child. They don't hit milestones. Okay? Others, they have autism at the same time, then they can't speak totally. So it varies from child to child. And then
Okay.
when it comes to mental health, now the mental health part will find they have anxiety, they have depression, and the depression is not it's extreme. They have issues with anger, they don't know how to handle it, expression, communication, they take long to understand. If you're having a dialogue like with a normal person, for them it's not right away. They take time to interpret and they might take time to respond. Now, for my child, the teachers sometime in school, you ask him, then he actually for him is affected by noise. If you shout at him, he's a different child than them. So you start realizing shouting at him will not give anything. So there's certain things. But of course, when you go to the doctor, this one thing parents have to know. Don't go into conclusion that my child has autism. Go to a pediatrician, go to a neurologist. The doctors will always be able to recommend the rightful doctors to go to, and they'll be able to let you know. And feel free to ask any questions because the earlier you find out, the better for you. Because had I also taken time, I don't think this boy would have the milestones that he has now. He's able to communicate, to wash, because there are some things you see, repetitive behaviors are there. Some they tell you, the doctor tells you that's how they cope with their anger, that's how they cope with their frustration in understanding certain things. So there are things you can change, but it's not curable. That's what you have to, but you can help depending on the level.
Okay. Thank you very much. You pointed out him having issues with anger. If you shout at him, he's probably going to act a different person from who he is. If maybe such scenarios. So, how did you help him to ensure that he copes up with the environment? I mean, in the world we are living in, you cannot be there and you're like you cannot get angry. Anger is something that you cannot avoid. It happens all the time. People are going to anger. People are going to annoy you. You've been in school, and some students going to to do something that's going to change who you are. So how did you deal with that when it came to your
And
son?
one of the things also at home as a mother is being calm. Sometimes we expect so much from our children and we want to live in our children and then we turn into aggression. So you learn that child, and then I've been so predictable with him. I don't let him go to environment that I think can affect him. The church has also been very helpful. Taking him to Sunday school. He understands forgiveness. He understands when someone says sorry, then it's done. And for him, it has helped even as an adult now. Someone annoys him, he said sorry, he's able to. But then there are extremes. He's had extremes. When it's provoked by the same person, repeatedly, you try to bully him, then he'll react. And when he reacts, he fights. So one of the things is uh, when it's in a school or in an institution, I make sure I interact with the teachers. I say, look here, this is him. Then noise, of course, he has a habit. When the noise is so loud, he holds his ears and noise can be banging or something when it moves. Then he has repeated behavior, maybe a particular tone. He still does it up to now, but it's less and less because you talk to him. Sometimes I try to discourage, I engage in some other activity when he's upset. And then I've also learned with timeout. When he's upset, go to your room. Go to your room. He loves gadgets, give him a gadget. When he comes down, we have a one-on-one talk. What is annoying you? What is the problem? So it has helped him so much. He knows that. And then when he's upset, the person will run to his mom. Then we know how to deal with it. Sometimes even the question seems silly, but I'm excited to answer that I can be there and help him do it.
Okay. Okay. You talked about being calm as one of the ways that you were able to manage your son. Like you need to understand him, you need to know he's this, you need to listen to him when he talks to you, when he speaks up. How can you advise someone who has a child like yours? How would they manage them? Because we have different characters. For example, myself, I might not be calm, or my neighbor might not be calm, but and if this child does something like this, they might, react in a different way. How would you tell someone to manage autism? How is it managed in short?
One of the things is if you really want to manage this condition, you must change. It starts with you as a parent. There is no way you're going to manage a child with that condition without you changing. And you have to accept and you seek help. If you can't seek help, the people out there who are going to advise you, the parents who are going through it will open up. And once you open up, they'll open up and really be willing to help. So if you feel that, it's just like dealing with someone else who has upset you. I am on a parent and teacher's page, and someone was saying my child was beaten. I've taken this child to school. The child is not performing, and other people are saying on the group, this child is you're spending a lot of money. I've paid tutors, but this child cannot perform. He's just hyper, is what. And I said, some of these things you need to first go back to hospital and get this child. They said, no, that's wasting money. That child must be stubborn beat. So
Okay.
cool down as a parent. Take time to internalize, study your child. Don't leave the child for the maid. Some of these children with autism, they cannot be handled by maids. They are even very aggressive. And they understand. Mine talk and communicate. But there are those whom I've seen, they don't even talk. But they have their communication, some sign language. But they understand, talk to them, they're not deaf, they understand.
Sorry, Jennifer, we have lost you. Can you hear us? As Jennifer gets back, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, I can
Yes.
hear you now.
You can hear
Let
me?
Brian introduce himself. Yes, can you introduce yourself, and then we continue with the topic.
Okay, I hope you can see me well. Yes.
Yeah, we
My name
can.
is Brian Kagumbero, and I'm a speech and language therapist. My caseload is majorly children on the autism spectrum and a few adult clients with aphasia. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I
Thank
work
you very
with,
much, Brian. Yeah.
yes,
Proceed. Proceed.
okay.
Proceed.
I work with Rubaga Hospital Rehabilitation Department. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Brian. Actually, you found me and Jennifer discussing autism. She was actually taking us through her journey as a mother to an autistic child. She was telling us how she got to know the ups and downs she has gone through. And there's this question which I think I should have asked to you, but since you are off, so I decided to ask her. How can someone manage autism, an autistic child in that case? How can they manage such a child?
Management of autism is a multifaceted interaction. It requires several people to be involved. Number one, I always like to say to have at least a neurologist or a neuropediatrician on board. This person can look at the behaviors of this child and also do several scans that can let you know if the child really has autism. Because there are many other differential diagnoses that may look like autism when it's not autism.
Okay.
Yes. So it requires, first of all, to meet with a neurologist. Yes. Then number two, after a neurologist, you would need first of all, after knowing that your child has autism, you need to first of all take charge of it, take responsibility of it. I find many parents who remain in denial, and this does not help. Yes, they think that probably after a while my child will get cured or my child will become perfect, which is not the case in majority scenarios. So first of all you have to take charge, get responsible about it, and also get as much information as you can. Get as much information as you can from knowledgeable sources. Yes. Right now we live in the world of internet. There's so much information that you can come across. The best thing to know is which information is right and which information is wrong. Yes, find out, especially from health professionals. They can always direct you on what to do. Now, also find out what key areas are limiting your child in terms of learning and growth. When you find out what key areas are limiting your child, then you can know where to go to. For example, if your child has difficulty with speech, then you can find out which people deal with speech. That's where you'll be directed to a person like me who does speech therapy. Then if your child has difficulty in reading and learning, that's if the child is above 3 years of age and they are showing difficulty in reading and learning, then the child should be directed to a special needs teacher. Then if the child has difficulties in their bowel movement, which is common in children on the autism spectrum, then you would need to meet a gastroenterologist. Yes. Then in doing activities of daily living like dressing up, combing their own hair, brushing their teeth, then just doing organizational activities, then you would need to meet an occupational therapist. Yes. You're saying something, Claire.
I wanted to ask you about difficult. You actually gave us signs of autism as you spoke. You gave us signs of autism of if the child has difficulty in learning, if the child has difficulty, organizing themselves, they have difficulty in all those things. So I'm actually focusing on if someone has that. I don't know if an autistic child can have either of those signs, but not all of them. For example, if my child has difficulty in learning only, not necessarily organizing or what, but my child maybe has issues with learning, could I quickly assume my child is autistic because my child might be 3 years and above, but then they are not interested in learning. They are interested in doing some other things altogether. Can that one also be a sign that my child might be suffering from the condition?
Just like I talked about earlier on, the first thing to always get is to, if somebody has told you or has talked about autism, your child may be being autistic, the first people to go to a neurologist or a neuropediatrician, that's a neurologist who is specialized in children, or going to a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. These people are able to diagnose if your child is on the autism spectrum. Yes. Then further on, you have to know what it means to be on the autism spectrum. By the DSM-5, that is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders that is used internationally. Autism spectrum is classified by 3 particular characteristics. Actually, now there are 2. In the former DSM, there were 3, but now there are 2 specific ones. The first one is communication difficulties. Communication difficulties. If your child is having communication difficulties, they're not speaking as required on time, that's 1. Then number 2, if their speech is abnormal, it's restricted, they might speak about specific things only, or they might only maintain particular topics in their conversations. Yes. Or it is gibberish, what you'd call gibberish, what we would call medically nonsensical speech, when the person is speaking things that you cannot understand, but they are trying to communicate. Yes. That is then number 2, we look at behavioral challenges. Behavioral challenges. Under behavioral challenges, we would see social challenges in social reciprocity. What we would say that reciprocity means that I come to you and I speak to you and you speak to me normally. That social bit of how people engage together. So if a child is unable to maintain social reciprocity, then they are more likely to be on the autism spectrum. Then if they show also stereotypical behaviors, meaning that they develop behaviors that are continued in a specific manner. For example, they might flap their hands all the time. Yeah, do flapping. That is very common with autistic children. Or they might block their ears when they hear loud noises or awkward noises that are specific to them. Yes. Or they may stamp their feet in scenarios. Or they might arrange objects around in the house. They might arrange objects in a particular manner, or they might want to get attached to particular items. Like you might find there's a specific toy they want, and no matter how the toy looks like, no matter how damaged it may look like, they really want that toy. So that kind of attachment, that obsession, yes, is what we put under the behaviors that we'd expect in individuals with autism. So when you find out that notice that your child is checking out in those boxes, then you would know that there's a high chance they're on the autism spectrum. Maybe something else that we could also find out is that children on the autism spectrum may also have other disorders that are separate from autism. Yes, you might find a child with autism at the same time having psychosis. Psychosis is what you would call in layman's terms madness. What you'd call in layman's terms madness. The child being what you'd call being mad. Yes, psychosis, whereby they show aggression, they fight, they not specifically as a mode of communication. It's not as a mode of communication, but as a mode of a mental disorder, a more challenging mental disorder. Then in other instances, the child might have Down syndrome and also having autism. I hope we all know Down syndrome. Yes, which has specific characteristics as well. The child might also have cerebral palsy and also show autism. Yes. So I hope I've answered you well, Claire.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was so much interesting. That was so much wisdom shared there. So I'm going to get to you, Jennifer, because we are actually focusing on your story to do this show. So Brian talked about a lot of things, signs of autism. He talked about speech. He talked about learning difficulties. Talked about the social problems. So, you, as someone who has passed through all this journey, can you tell us how was your son back in time? What are some of those signs that you showed that gave you questions about your son's health?
I think the obvious thing that I would see was that noise reaction. Every other time we do this, a noise reaction, attachment to toys, twiddling of the fingers, you see that communication and able to keep up with a normal conversation. Um, the speech was delayed. We started speaking really at the age of 5, 3, one word, 2 words. He wasn't like other children who would talk, Mommy, this was mom, after mama, or this word, his first word for a very long time. So when he went to school, then he would
Jennifer, you have a noise in the background. You have noise. I don't know if you have a neighbor there. You can tell them to give you some time.
what noise I hear it.
Do you have a
Is it
neighbor
still there?
somewhere? Yeah, some kind of echoes.
Echo.
But you can proceed. You can proceed.
Is the noise gone now?
Yeah,
You are
it's kind
at
of
a
like this.
communication
I think someone was opening the door.
Okay, proceed.
So some of the characteristics that the behavior that Brian has said, I've seen all of them. Some I tried to change them forcefully, like stop this, stop doing this. I'll actually had a toy, I'll get it and hide it. He will find it. One time I threw it in a box of fruit stuff I next, he had it. We were in shock. The dad would do the same, I do the same. You hide. And he would blink, he'd go with it to school, he'd come back with it, and that toy he'd sit with it. Then also he had attachments to the cover of pens, which he still has up to now. Fine, he has a pen cover in his clothes all the time, the cover of a big pen. So the way behaviors you see, communication improved with time. One, international schools know how to deal with children with such behavior, but if you take them to a normal school, they're not able to cope because a teacher in a normal school will start teaching and just wants to run with education. An international school, they'll learn to deal with a child and improve their skills and see the strength and use it. And yet also the disadvantage comes to 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 us. They are very expensive. These international schools are very good for such children, but very, very expensive. So you find you cannot maintain it for a long time. So with Alexa, you can communicate. Though not normally, you see the gaps, the issues are there. But people who interact with him do. Then the noise behavior also dealing with noise and that. You see some behaviors fade. I don't know whether when they mature and they realize this, then they try to get rid of it, or it just fades by itself. Or they do it secretly, then they tap with the feet was there. And I used to wonder, I used to think it's just playing, and it's later on when you talk to a neurologist, this which a neurologist, you learn to accept, and it helps a lot when you learn to accept you're able to help this child. Had I not, maybe I think this is a naughty child, this child doesn't listen. Then of course you realize maybe has a learning disorder also is among those things in him. And then also he has the pervasive development disorder he needs. Then he has a mental disorder he needs with depression. So you need to know what are things that trigger them. Even these ones who get angry, what triggers them? like taking a toy that they used to from them triggers them to another level. That is their tool they use to use themselves. So you need to learn. And when you learn, then it's easy to deal with them. And people will not even know that your child has it if it's not extreme like mine.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer, for your input. Now, getting back to you, Brian, because hearing to Jennifer's story, we see Jennifer is an elite woman. She's lived in a city. She's probably has got a job where she earns some good money to take her child to international school. Now, I'm looking at a woman from deep down in my village. She has given birth to a child, and a child is showing these signs, of not communicating very well, learning difficulties, all those things. What kind of advice would you give because such a woman might take their entire life to actually understand my child is actually autistic. And even if they got to understand, they would not know how to go about it. So how can you advise such a person deep down in my village who's actually also watching us maybe from somewhere?
Yes. I would say what you would call an individual in a resource constrained environment.
Yes.
Whereby they are unable to access the facilities necessary to benefit their child. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. For an individual in a resource constrained environment, we always look towards two particular things. Number one, their specific level of education. Indeed, there are individuals in deep down the village who have a certain amount of education, at least can understand several things. Yes, because the first, can I call it a hiccup? The first hiccup that we always face as professionals trying to get the message forward is superstition. Superstition. So you have to first get this individual to know that, to clear out any thoughts of superstition that my child may be bewitched, my child may be as a result of their sin, what you would call sin, or whatever wrong they have done. Yes, you have to first educate them that that is not the cause. This is more likely a genetic and environmental difficulty. It's not about them in particular, about whatever they have done or whatever anybody has done to them. Yes. So we first educate them. Then number two, we have to look at, even in their resource constrained environment, we have to look at what objects in their environment can benefit the child. What can they use in the environment? For example, we would look at using simple bottles, getting a bottle and putting in beans to use as a shaker. Yes, because individuals on the autism spectrum usually have auditory difficulties, and a shaker can act as a low resource kind of audio integration item. Yes, using the shaker for them for their hearing to be integrated to the typical environment of noise. Then also using items like even these dolls, using items as like dolls for pretend play. I think you've seen the banana fiber dolls that were made years back. I think in some areas they're still being made. Yes, so in such environments, we also need to make dolls. Then to do what we call indirect therapy. Indirect therapy simply means we skill this individual with therapeutic activities that they can do. Yes, therapeutic activities that they can do. For example, verbal imitations, learning to do face-to-face verbal imitations in front of the child. We tell the person, at least get up around 15 minutes every day with your child and do some intentional verbal imitation with them. try to say some particular short words that they are familiar with objects, with the particular, better when the particular objects are around. For example, cup, yes, chikopo, you get plate, sowani, yes, with that typical interaction, with consistency of every day. We believe that consistency, you're building, your consistency is the glue, is the glue to building that those communication needs. Yes. So use indirect therapy to also get them to, you tell them to also get time to play with the child. Time to play with the child. You know, children on the autism spectrum are really not social. They won't, many of them won't go out of their way to interact with others. So many times it is the parents supposed to put in the effort to interact with them. That is, they have to take typical play of other children and bring it to these children who do not want to play with the others. So they have to make that mini playground with the child. Get different items that you'd expect the child to play with. Maybe shakers, just like we talked about. Maybe getting some blocks, some simple blocks made of wood. Yes, this can be made in any environment where you can find wood. Just make some wooden blocks, simple wooden blocks. Then also get clothes of different colors, cut pieces of cloth of different colors, and use those for teaching colors. Then also get different clothes that the child likes. Yes. Then also find out what particular items excite the child. Sometimes particular colors might excite the child. Get items of more colors in that area. Yes. These can all be done in a resource constrained environment. Basically, what is the biggest challenge in resource constrained environment is time. We always ask that the parents can give more time to their children. Yes. If a child can give at least 30 minutes, even 1 hour, you can break down 1 hour into 15 minutes of separately throughout the day. 15 minutes separately throughout the day when you can interact with this child one-on-one. Yes. Or you can also get one whereby you bring in other children and you play a specific group game with them. Maybe it is you're singing a song together with the other children, so you clap together. Yes. I hope I've been able to.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Now, I asked this question because I'm looking at autism awareness to be at a low rate in Uganda right here. I don't know if it is in other countries, but in Uganda it's very low. When I asked you this question, yes, you have given in the ideas on how you can help this person from a low resource area, but I'm looking at a point where this mother has no idea about the existence of autism. They do not know it's even, actually they have no idea actually there are mental health disorders. They don't know about these things. So in such a case, the parents gets a child who has autism. How should from deep down in my village, how should they be able to notice autism so that they can maybe go to seek for some healthcare somewhere?
Well, I think that is not mostly on the side of the parent. That is on the side of on the government. If as mental health workers and other health professionals, we're able to lobby the government to sensitize more people down in the grassroots, then they can be given the information and the red flags that they should look out for. But at the moment, it would be hard for them to really just come out without the information, knowing. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, as I did some bit of research about autism, I found out why you use ABBA, the ABBA method, applied behavior analysis for these
Yes,
children.
ABA.
Yes, what exactly does ABA do? How do you use this
Yes.
analysis in these children? And what is it?
Yes. ABA is a trademark treatment therapy that is used mainly in the United States of America, that is used mainly as more of a between reinforcement and reinforcement and reward, a reinforcement and reward system that is used for therapy, whereby you make a therapy plan having specific goals. Let me give an example of a goal. Like a simple goal could be, I want this child to say the sound ah out of 3 times out of 5 trials. 3 times out of 5 trials. So that could be a goal that you've made. So in that goal, you're going to first look for rewards that the child likes, things that motivate the child. One thing could be food, a snack. Another thing could be a play item the child really loves. Another thing could be maybe an app on the phone that they love to play with or to get entertainment from. So what you do, you're going to practice with the child, and if the child is unable to say you have to focus them to their motivation. Their motivation. You put down and you're like, if you say there's this intrinsic communication that if they are to say then you can give them this item. Yes. So in ABA, you have to keep doing those rewards continuously. And ABA, because it is a trademark therapy, it has key steps that should be followed. Right from start to completion. If an individual is to start ABA without completing it fully, there can be challenges in the middle because the child may be focused on rewards all the time, and they don't become totally an independent individuals you'd want them to be. Yes, so ABA works with rewards as reinforcements for them to do the positive behavior you want. Yes. I hope I've been able to answer that.
Welcome back, Jenny. You actually found I had a question for you, a burning question. Thank God you're back. There is something. There is noise. There is noise in your background. There is noise. There are echoes. There is something we are looking at breaking complex tasks into small tasks that can be taught easily. I'm looking at a point where you got to know your son was autistic, probably was maybe 3 or 4 years. How are you able to break down these bigger tasks to small tasks? And what were actually those tasks for him to understand, to know that probably this is a cup of milk, this is not a cup of porridge, this is a plate. How are you able to teach your child such small things for him to understand them better?
I think repeating tasks like maybe putting shoes. He had an issue with when he was upset, he would throw things on.
You have echoes. You have echoes in your background.
Can I give me? I mean, is this better? Is it better?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Okay. My headset, I've removed it. So I'll just speak direct. Repeated task. What task? I'm looking at the task that he used to do. Because I took him to school with about 16 months. I took him to school. So some of the tasks, maybe picking his shoes, because one of the habits he had was throwing things. He would throw things instead of putting it in one place he throws. So for me, the repetitive behavior, put it here continuously. For me, that is what let him get to understand that this has to be here. But with food, He was a very picky child with food. He used to sniff his food. Like, for example, if you gave him sausage, he would first get it and, first sniff it. And if he doesn't go with it, then he'll throw it away. So these things, when you get an op. So it's
Is there a
about
TV
for me
in
to
your
take
background? Jennifer, is that TV in your background? There is noise. There is noise. There is noise. There is noise.
Is that better? Sorry about that.
There is
Is that
noise in the
better?
background. There is noise. I don't know if there is a TV or a radio or something. There is noise.
No, there's no noise. I can be with the neighbors. Let me change my environment. Okay, you can continue with the. Okay, excuse me. Let me change my environment.
Okay, no problem. We are talking autism. Today we have a mother to an autistic child. We also have a speech and language therapist who are taking us through autism, who are telling us what we need to know about our children, how we should get this diagnosis at an early stage so that we are able to take care of our children and get to know the better ways how we can let them grow as responsible citizens of this country. Jennifer is back. So I want to bring her back here, and then she can take us through. And then she can take us through the tasks that. So let us bring her back. So Jennifer, welcome back. Yeah, the environment is now better. It's now a better
Okay,
environment. Yes.
my apologies.
So you are telling us, yeah, kindly go forward. Proceed.
Then issues of brushing. You give him a toothbrush to brush. He chews the toothbrush. You put toothpaste. He chews it. You just chew the toothbrush all the time. So I tried the electrical toothbrush, it would not work. I tried these other ones, and so it was just a process. You have to be patient. You take time. Simple things like that. Like he has challenge with washing. Simple things like that. You let him wash his socks. Maybe just one side of her socks. He'll wash it forever. But at least you persist. So for me, the simple task was persisting. And then he loved wiping, wiping tables. He'd wipe the dining, wipe, furniture. His issue was wiping. So the task like that, you encourage him to do it. But of course, sometimes it gets extreme. He will clean the table, he's there. He's cleaning and cleaning and cleaning the table. So you have to get something else that can, change his mindset from that table and do something else. So you look at his strength, the things they love, and then you look at other tasks that you can introduce them to that are very simple. Like he never loved the brick. The children's toy blocks you give him. He would get irritated and frustrated. So for me, that people would say, okay, child loves that. For him, that wasn't his strength. But small things, take your cup to the kitchen. Today he will take it, tomorrow he will not take it to the kitchen. But repeated reminder, then doing the things with him, the activities with him, and not giving up. So for me, those are the tasks. How up to now, maybe his shoes tomorrow. You find the repeated thing. Put your socks here; it's not there. Put your shoes this way, like this. He wants them the other way. There are certain things. They are die-hard habits, but you don't give up as a parent. So for me, that's what I do. But I don't eliminate him from doing tasks like any other child up to now. If there's task for anyone, he participates. He'll clean, he'll wipe, he does dishes. When he doesn't want to, then he do ritual and walk away. But you encourage. So for me, that's how I've been handling him with tasks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that. Getting back to you, Brian. Let me unmute you first. Unmute yourself. So, Brian, I was actually asking Jennifer about breaking the complex tasks into smaller tasks so that these children can be able to understand. So you who as a hands-on person who's dealing with these children on a daily basis, what are some of those tasks that you feel like there is a need for you to break them down for these children to understand so easily, and then they get into doing them faster?
Yes. For children on the autism spectrum, they usually have a general delay in majority of the tasks as compared to typical individuals.
Yeah.
So you'll find that you'll find that everyday things that you'd expect other children to be able to do, they have a difficulty to do them, or they show a lack of interest. So in order for you to develop these tasks, you have to first find out their interests. Start from what do they like. Then when you find out what they like, then you bring in new interests using what they like. Yes. For example, let me give an activity. Well, this is mostly in the area of occupational therapy. Let me give an example of an activity of writing. An activity of writing, whereby a child has difficulty writing. Yes. But in the same instance, the child loves to play with textures, different fabrics, yes, of textures. So this can be a starting point of teaching them to write, exposing them, first of all, to a variety of textures, rough texture, smooth textures, very smooth textures, then also very hardcore textures, yes, that they can get their hands onto, like sand, getting clay, getting cloths, yes, to play with those. Also playing in water, like playing with water. Then after that, you add in things like sticks, because sticks have close appearance to a writing utensil like a pencil. Yes. So you get things like small sticks or colored sticks. There are those colored sticks they sell these days in those toy centers, like for example, Aristoc. There are those colored sticks that, because children on the spectrum really love colorful things, getting those colored sticks, they would find that ease of holding those, and they don't have the task of writing beforehand. Sometimes when you bring the task of writing, it becomes more of a demand upon them. They feel the expectation is very high. But when you bring it in a playful manner, when you bring these playful sticks, then you get this castic and you get maybe ink, and you place the castic in ink and use that castic to make just a playful drawing with a child. So there you're breaking down the task. They haven't yet known that you're taking them to writing. Sometimes when they see others writing, for example, if a child is going to a school where other children are writing, and you hand them a pen to write, and they feel they can't do it, they kind of lose out, and they feel less motivated to do that activity. But when you bring in a playful manner through, like what I've talked about, these textures, then plus these colorful sticks, yes, it makes it easier for them to maintain that. Then you add in a motivation. You can add in a motivation. For example, if they like a particular snack, if you've noticed, they have done a desirable behavior, like they have been able to write something close to the number 1, and you want to maintain that desirable activity. You bring something they like, probably like a snack, or maybe you praise them. There are children who really love praises, even better than snacks. When you praise them and adore them and show them that love, they are ready to repeat again the task in order to get it, in order to get back that praise. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I think we probably need like 4 hours to to completely deal with this topic. But you see, we follow the program and we are time bad. Actually, we are
Yes.
like 1 minute at the end of the show. So I'll request the both of you to give your closing remarks. I'm very much excited to have you here today. But next time we shall push this one forward. Next time we shall have a longer talk. So, starting with you, Jennifer, kindly give the parents encouragement. Parents out there who have children like yours, but they do not actually know, or they actually don't know how to approach it. Maybe they know, but they don't know how to approach it. Give them some words of encouragement, and then after you, Brian will come next as we close this show today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure sharing with you all. I would encourage parents, first of all, to know that you're not alone in this. It's very important you get a group. There are very many groups out there. Um, you get in touch, get help, don't give up. It's frustrating, but it's very good to go out there and seek and be patient with your child. Give it the best, and you'll be amazed at how special these children can be and how much you can get out of them. I wish you all the best. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Brian, your closing remarks as a therapist.
Yes.
Tell them what they should expect or
My
how
closing
they should
remarks
approach.
is first of all, just like Jennifer has said, it shouldn't be a lonely journey. The best way to find out what to be done is hang out with other people who are in similar scenarios. Today there are several WhatsApp groups. Today there are several Facebook groups. Yes, and also there are so many YouTube videos here of people with similar scenarios. It's important to come out and get as much information as possible. Yes. Then also reach out to the professionals who are involved, reach out to the doctors, reach out to the therapists, find out what can be done. Then also, I always say that the first therapist of a child with autism is the parent. There's nobody who can show as much concern for the child as the parent. And therefore, they should be able to learn as much as possible from the therapists and the doctors and put that information in play. Yeah, I always believe that if the adult learns therapy and they're able to carry out these activities, it becomes much easier and also less expensive on their pockets. Yes. Thank you so much for hosting us, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, the both of you, for making today's show a lively one. And whoever has been watching us on our different social media platforms, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, we thank you very much. We don't take it for granted. And also on LinkedIn, we thank you very much. Someone asked a question, I think, today, very early in the morning, asking if autism can be cured, but I think he has an answer. Autism cannot be cured, so you have to learn how to deal with it. He's called Mukupe Jones. He was asking, can it be cured? But no, it cannot. So you have to find ways. And I think my guests today have told you how to deal with autism. And we thank you very much to everyone who's been watching us at Black Mental Health Matters. My name is Glenda Sasra, and from here in Uganda, I want to wish you a good night as we wait for some other exciting programs to come ahead. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you so much, Claire. Have a good night.